Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Today's session is the final part of a four-part series where we were exploring various concepts that help you learn and implement a successful security architecture for your organization. In today's final session, you will learn about the unique approach that empowers security professionals to get ahead of today's complex threats and the landscape with the integrated SIEM and XDR tools from a single vendor, Microsoft, so you can get the best of both worlds, end-to-end threat visibility across all of your resources, correlated, prioritized alerts based on the deep understanding of Microsoft that it has over the specific resources, and the AI that stitches these signals together and coordinate actions across your organization. My name is Hussam. I'm the program manager for Microsoft Reactor in Abu Dhabi. Microsoft Reactors are hubs for founders and developers to meet, learn, and connect to local peers, as well as industry-leading ideas and technology from Microsoft partners and the open source community. It's also the home to the Microsoft for Startups program. With a diverse mix of hands-on workshops, expert panels, and community events, there is something for everyone. Check out our calendar of events on meetup.com and join our coming sessions. We continue this journey with Hisham Saad. Hisham is a senior regional cybersecurity technical specialist at Microsoft, focusing on SOC operational threat management, advanced analytics, and SIEM management with more than 13 years of IT and cybersecurity experience. During today's session, I highly encourage you to engage in the Q&A tab, keep it open, send us all your questions, and we will try to cover them during the session. We will also encourage you to keep a friendly environment for all, since we are all coming here to learn. And I don't want to take longer in this introduction. I would like to pass over the mic to Hisham to take us through the final part of this journey. Off to you, Hisham.
Thanks, Hussam. Let me share my screen, please. And let me know, please, Hussam, if you're able to see the screen.
All good now.
Thank you so much. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining Security Series for April 2021. Quick introduction again from my side. My name is Hisham Saad. I'm part from the Cybersecurity Solutions technical team in Microsoft, covering Europe and Middle East and Africa. So previous sessions, we covered in detail and demonstrated couple of security topics about extended detection and response and how to use Microsoft Defender as an XDR suite that can help you to have a full visibility, detections and protections across the entire state in your environment related to infrastructure, your endpoints, your identity, your data, cloud app security, etc. And then we covered another session in details about how you can protect your endpoints against whatever it's using Windows, Mac, Linux, or even mobile for iOS and Android, with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint as your unified endpoint security solution. And as well as we covered in details how you can safeguard your entire Office 365 suite, and specifically related to advanced and sophisticated phishing attempts and attack related to impersonations, related to spams, malware, 0 days with using Defender for Office 365. Today, we're going to go into details and we're going to show you the unified XDR and SIEM integrations from Microsoft. How Microsoft Defender, as well as Azure Sentinel, which is our next generation of a SIEM solution, can help you to have a full visibility and to improve the security operations and security posture for your organization. But before we're going to go into details and showing you the entire functionality, how it works, what are the features, how the integration is actually help you for your organization. And we're going to show with you a more detailed step-by-step guide, as well as we'll show you a case study, and we're going to have a live demo showing you how the solution from a real SOC as an analyst, how we'll be able to investigate and get the best value of using the unified XDR and SIEM from Microsoft. Again, it's really important to identify what is the difference between extended detection and response and having security information event management, and SOAR, security orchestration as well as automated response. What is the difference? And do we really need having all, or it would be just a kind of a duplicate or replica, or there is a value by having a unified XDR and SIEM solution in your organization? So as you can see that here, XDR versus a SIEM. Any extension detected and response as an XDR platform is primarily focusing on providing real-time coordinated protection with native content, deep dive analysis to the workloads, your endpoint, your identity, your email, your cloud applications, your environment, etc. SIEM, as a security information event management, is actually designed to collect data from multiple data sources. It's not necessarily to be this data sources coming from your environment. As a native, it can be coming from any third-party data source, cloud or even an on-prem, mainly for the sake of detections and investigation. So one of the key points you can see it here as a considerations is content creations that require deep security expertise as well as understanding of the threats if you'd like to look at the scope of a SIEM. And if you look at the difference or differentiate between an XDR and security orchestrating an automated response system, the key point is about the automation by having a set of a playbooks or runbooks to automate. Considering that I do have to automate specific rules, this means that I need to have steps or workflows, and this specific workflow considering having a set of steps, and these set of steps that having a set of conditions and actions. But before we're going to go into details about the unified XDR and SIEM from Microsoft, it's really important to share with you a couple of surveys and statistics that's coming from Microsoft, Accenture, and you can see on the left side all of the data sources. So in 2019, there is a total of 95% increase in the cost of a breach, which is an average $5.16 million. 67% increase in the attacks in the last 5 years, which means that in a 50 average number of secure tools for an average sized organization. That's a massive number, which means that if organization using multiple different security vendors from multiple products, it's really tough for them to doing the full integration. And even if they're doing an integration using an APIs, maybe REST or streaming the APIs, and consolidated all of the logs into a specific data lake, it's still a bit difficult in order to have an automated set of a playbooks or runbooks that will be able to correlate the signals, events, and data in addition to alerts, and eventually generate a high fidelity incident. So this is to save a lot of time for analysts in your SOC, to save a lot of time and prioritize what are exactly the needed incidents and suspicious activity that we need to set a time and a focus in order to avoid a breach in our organization. All of that comparing to have a native capability from a single vendor that can provide you an end-to-end visibility and deep optics, not only from a detection point of view, but from a prevention as well as from an automation and response across the entire state, from an infrastructure to your endpoint, to your devices, to your identity, to your data, to cloud applications, and even to integrate and automate the response with integration with third-party data sources. So as you can see it here, here is a unified experience, and you find out-of-the-box integrations that you're having from Azure Sentinel, which is our next generation of a SIEM, as well as with the Microsoft Defender, the XDR suite. So there are three main components which you're seeing here on my screen. Azure Sentinel is a unified SIEM, which is a cloud native, which is next generation of a SIEM that's mainly designed to integrate with any data stored on an on-prem, stored on a cloud with any cloud provider, when switchers, routers, firewalls, mainframes, etc. It doesn't matter, or any entity. With Azure Defender, the Azure Defender suite that can secure and monitor your infrastructure, containers, Kubernetes, servers, etc. As well with the Microsoft 365 Defender, which is your unified Defender suite to secure your end user environment from an endpoints, cloud applications, email, Office 365, identity as well. And this is a complete agnostic integration. For agnostic platform from an operating system like Windows, Linux, Mac, mobile iOS and Android, or even any kind of cloud providers, you can see it here on the screen. So the question is technically how it works. But before going to the details and show it you how it works, what are the main out-of-the-box connectors that's mainly designed to stream raw data, not only events and alerts, which is enriched, be able to stream raw data for further correlations as well as detection rules as a SOC. Let's try to get more insights about every single module, which is showing the unified experience from the XDR and SIEM. So if we start with the Azure Sentinel here, quick overview about the SIEM. It's multi-cloud. You have a full set of an APIs integrations to take an action and integrate. It's backed by deep visibility, automation, integrate and correlate data from any source on-prem on a cloud, and backed by an AI and ML modules for the fusions and set of machine learning's capability with threat intelligence feeds to provide deep integrations and investigation. And if you have another insights into the Microsoft 365 Defender, that we had one of the sessions, we showed in details what are the functionality, how it works, and we demonstrated a live demo. This is the entire bundle to have a full integrations across visibility for your endpoints, your identity, your applications, your cloud apps, documents, and emails for entire Office 365, which is a multi-cloud and platform agnostic from a Windows, Mac, Linux, and mobile. And here you will go into details about not only to investigate and detect, but most importantly, how you stop an attacks and prevent and take an action to reduce any attack surface. Having the full set of detections and automation layer, using the built-in playbooks that can do automatic investigation and remediation capability based on an assigned or a set remediation level set that can be done by the admin. A built-in advanced hunting module that you can be able to create your own custom detection rules and even convert any detection hunting rule to take a response and action to the workload level. In addition to the entire triage, investigations, alerts, remediations across the entire M365 environment, all of that in a single console. And if we shed the lights and insight into the Azure Defender, which is covering hybrid workloads and multi-cloud workloads as well. This is provide a deep protections to the data service level, to the cloud native services, covering servers for Windows and Linux servers, as well as from an IoT perspective with Defender for IoT integration. So having on the database, having on the server side, containers, Kubernetes, application service, IoT network traffic, across multi-cloud environment for Google Suite, AWS, and for sure for Microsoft Azure. This will extend the protection as well to your on-prem assets, and not only focusing on the multi-cloud with using the Azure Arc. And again, prioritizing the set of alerts and focus exactly what need to be action taken based on the security recommendations and guidance. So as you can see, what's happening so far is having a multiple native capability coming from Microsoft from a SIEM perspective to any kind of third-party data source, not necessarily or primary to be on the first native. For any kind of a platforms or identities that's being integrated natively with the Microsoft 365 Defender, as well as with the infrastructure layer and security and monitoring with Azure Defender for on-prem or even with multi-cloud. And the best unified experience here as a better together to show the technical value is the depths of having Microsoft Defender. And Microsoft Defender in terms of having a breadth, and this spreads across the entire enterprise wide for your organization, providing a deep visibility with Azure Sentinel. So you will have the bird eye view as a top down across what exactly deep optics correlations analysis has been done by Microsoft 365 and Azure Defender. And on top of that, providing insights and visibility to any third-party data source because we believe that all of the organizations not necessarily to have everything coming natively as a Microsoft. You might have third-party data source, secured solutions, infrastructure, system, ITSM, etc. that you need to integrate with. And hence, providing a unified experience and full visibility and deep optics, not only from a visibility and detections, but also from a protection and automation, top down across the entire state. That's the real technical value. In addition to unified cross query, using the same language, the same KQL cost to query language, the hunting language that we're using with the Defender suite, and using as well with Azure Sentinel. So you'll be able to run a detection, same hunting query across the entire state, invoking raw data coming from the Defender, or even enriching the data and correlations and alerts coming from these solutions with third-party data sources. That was in a quick nutshell about what is exactly happening, what is the same functionality, how behind the scene you're having a unified XDR by Microsoft Defender, and the same with Azure Sentinel is really works. So providing set of an automation, leverage the threat intelligence, the cloud native, covering the entire platform state for your workloads, identities, infrastructure, network, data, applications, and devices, as well as integration with third-party any data source that's coming from your data points. So let's stop talking right now and let's start by showing you a case study. And we're going to show you actually not just a normal case study. We're going to show you a real scenario and a campaign that's happened. And imagine by this specific use cases, if you're using multiple different secured solutions, touching your workloads, how will be able to get the value by having in integrations and spending a lot of time by correlating, by setting and creating your own runbooks, and on top of that, how will be able to build multiple ML modules. Compared to something native that have deep analysis and optics across the entire state once being configured, out of the box integrated, sharing the signals and events and adding correlation on top of it using ML and playbooks in order to generate and provide for you a high fidelity incidents or even suspicious behaviors and anomalies based on high scoring. So let's have a look here at this example, and then I'll demonstrated to you how it works. And at the end, we'll have a live demonstration and live demo, showing you in a real scenario how all of this native and unified experience is really works. So if you look at the example here for our use case for today, let me start using the pointer here. So what's going on there is an attacker, he's actually targeting a specific email. So he sent like a kind of a phishing email to a specific user. He might targeting doing forcing across multiple kind of mailboxes for a specific organization. And then what will happen is if one of the main victim for this specific organization, he opens this email. So let's assume the current security email security gateway product didn't be able to detect there is a kind of a phishing emails that has been managed to pass. And eventually, the victim will be able to open this specific email in his inbox. And once he opens this phishing email with a malicious document, this emails that have like a kind of a malicious document, this document that might have like a kind of a script, this script that having will drop a payload, this payload will have like a backdoor, this backdoor might be 0-day. So let's assume our scenario here, what's happening across the kill chain, starting by a delivery as a kind of a categories or a tactic, if you would like to map it to MITRE attack or MITRE attack. The victim is starting to open this phishing emails that have a malicious document or link. And once it's starting to open it from his inbox, it sounds that this specific malicious email, that document starting to actually having a built-in macro. This specific macro have a payload that's dropping a backdoor, which is called WMI privacy.exe. And this specific kind of backdoor starting to launch like a PowerShell script as a command. This PowerShell running on a base 64 in terms of encoded in order to download like an emoted malware. So it's going from a delivery category to an execution tactic here. And then going from his execution tactic, once the main victim as a recipient, open this one on his device. So it's starting by covering as an email attack, and then going to a different vector, which is the host or the endpoint vector of the main victim. So you are covering multiple workloads in your organization. And then the attacker, he's not just planning to compromise this specific host or for the user. He would actually like to expand and doing more lateral movement across the entire state, because he wanted to listen and wait until a high privileged user or identity in this specific organization started to come to the picture, and then he might have to harvest his account or her account in order to get a privileged access to do whatever they want in this specific organization. So the next stage, what's happening is going from an execution to a defense evasion state as a tactic. So this specific kind of a backdoor starting to use a polymorphic kind of malware samples, preventing execution sandbox, VBA starting to do stomping here on this environment. And then the attacker would like to actually have a solid footprint in this specific organization or a domain network. So he might need to add like a set of registry key, auto startup settings, or even schedule a task for having a persistence in this environment. So even if the main target victim starts to realize that something might be weird happening on his box or environment, and he might need to reboot, restart, or shut down this device for a while, he next time will be able to relaunch it or log in. It will be able to trigger an automated scheduled task as an ASIP, and this one will trigger a registry in order to maintain this specific kind of a threat. Maybe doing like a reconnaissance commands and activities and harvesting on the email. He might communicate to a kind of a public IP to establish a command and control C2 communication center by sending telemetry, events, vortex, and logs, maybe like a kind of harvesting credentials or compromised accounts identity outside to a public IP to the command server. And then what's happening, going from an email vector to an endpoint to an identity to a lateral movement to establish a control, you can see there are different set of tactics under the same kill chain. And that's a reality because of what we're seeing nowadays in terms of sophisticated attacks. So imagine at every single stage for every single workload, you might have a different security products. And even if you're getting the alerts and detections and then doing the integration using the APIs, having a native capability as a unified platform experience, that's not only covering all of the state with your Microsoft Defender suite, but actually be able to correlate the data with any third-party system, maybe with a third-party firewall, appliances, gateways that you're having in place, not necessarily to be coming from Microsoft. Integration, all of this intelligence and data with even the telemetry and events coming from a third party who's using Sentinel. That's the real deal of having a unified XDR and SIEM platform. And as you can see what's happening here as post step, that credential access, doing a lateral movement, running a set of campaigns, and then credential access there, and then having entire impact. And what you are seeing now, that's a real example of the Emotet and Ryuk ransomware campaign that's recently happened. So let's have a look from an analyst and a SOC point of view. What do we expect? I'm expecting that I'm signing into the Azure Sentinel, to the next generation unified SIEM from Microsoft. And I want to show it you live. I'll show you an out-of-the-box data connector, which is called Microsoft 365 Defender. That's not only providing the enriched set of alerts as well as incidents coming from the Defender suite, but also providing the option to actually ingest and pull raw data for further investigation and correlation activities. So I'm an analyst, I'm going to my Azure Sentinel portal, I'll be able to look at the incidents. And once I start to look at the incidents, what I'm seeing there is a human operated ransomware attack and multi-stage attacks that's happening in my organization. I'll be able to look at the right side, getting more information about the incident, details, evidence, more correlated data, main entities, as well as a mapped MITRE tactics and categories here. And once I'm starting to hit on the investigate button, I'm having an investigation graph, a drill down analyticals and graphical view showing to us as an analyst in our SOC organization what is really exactly happening, how the solutions is actually designed to connect the dots and correlate the events and entities in order to provide deep optics and having a super timeline analysis across the entire state. Remember, data, alerts, evidence may be streamed coming from Defender, maybe coming integrating with third party, maybe coming across the Azure Defender suite from your infrastructure. And here is the real deal, that you don't need to build a logic, you don't need to build an API, you don't need to build like a kind of a runbox. It's a full end-to-end integrated in the back end and correlated and providing the value and the deep optics to you. So as you can see here of this operating kind of ransomware, I see that there are different multiple entities. An entity related to a host, which is like Jonathan count one, a user, which is the Jonathan Walcott device. Here is the host. Here is the identity for the user. Here is a specific IPs doing a kind of a C2 communication. Here is a server, which is a file server that having communication to multiple things. And you can see at every single entity or a node, you will be able to drill down and expand it to see if there is further alerts, evidence, telemetry has been triggered. So here, when I click even on a super timeline button, I will be able to have a full visibility about what exactly happening, considering the correlations, the evidence, the enrichment that's happening, coming the data intel from the Microsoft Defender suite and Azure Defender. And then if I'd like to drill down into a specific entity, like Jonathan, having a complete UBA behavior analytics for this specific entity view. I'm saying who is this exactly, that's an identity, that's information about Jonathan. Here's a timeline view showing me what exactly happened and triggering alerts coming from the underlying integrating Defender products, telling me there is operating ransomware that's happening for you, remote code executions that's happening triggered by a specific solution, successful brute force. So you can see multiple timeline correlated events that's ingesting, bringing the data coming from the Defender suite, whatever the Microsoft 365 Defender or even integrating with the Azure piece. And you will be able to get more insights on the right side, showing me more details, actions has been done by this specific account or user. How many sign-in activity, which one is successful, which one is failed. Show me a timeline series analysis across the successful and failed logins over time. So as a SOC, as an analyst, you are getting a detailed view and deep optics, and you are investigating exactly what's happening in this specific incident or high fidelity incident. And then what's happening is when I go back to Sentinel, I'll be able to click on a link which is called Open in Microsoft Defender Portal. Because I wanted to go one level down, I wanted to investigate exactly what's happening inside the Defender suite coming from this incident. How the Microsoft Defender for endpoints is actually triggered. There is a 0-day, or actually this document that's opening by the email is suspicious. How the Microsoft 365 Defender detect there is a phishing email that having a macro passing by the email security gateway layer on Defender for Office 365, and how this correlated Microsoft 365 Defender incident being generated and correlating multiple alerts on the back end. And I'll show you live the exact scenario and the experience, not just a kind of a click walk through slide deck. Consider as well here is giving you the full integration platform with the threats, providing a threat analytics, and threat analytics giving you details view about the campaigns, the adversaries. And here is a screen from the Emotet 2020, the campaigns that are showing you scenario. Complete overview, how many related incidents that has been triggered correlating alerts. Show me the prevention actions, the automation that has been done automatically to block how many emails that has been blocked or even moved to the junk folder. Alerts over time. Show me how many vulnerabilities based on an exposure score rate across the entire organization, how many vulnerable set of devices or even mailboxes here. How many impacted devices, how many impacted mailboxes, etc. Misconfigurations in terms of security recommendations, policies, and rules need to be revisited or amended. Complete analyst report. Show me the impact as well as the mitigation plan. So as you can see that even providing the threat analytics reports, having a deep visibility from our researcher from the Microsoft researching team about what exactly happened in terms of campaigns or threats or outbreaks. And this will definitely reduce this emerging and avoiding the risk that such kind of threat might come to your organization starting to have a real breach or incident in your organization. And we're starting to drill down to the incident because I wanted to see this multi-stage incident has been generated based on the use case that I shared with you. Starting by set of alerts coming from the email side, Defender for Office 365, to the Defender for Endpoint on the endpoint layer, to the identity from the MDR layer, etc. So as you can see it here is showing you a one correlated high fidelity incident, highlight as a multi-stage incident layer with different kind of tactics. And if you expand it, you will be able to see different correlated alerts. And if you look at the right side, showing you what is exactly the main data sources. Is it an endpoint? Is it an identity and domain controller? Is it coming from an email? Is it coming from a cloud applications covered by the Microsoft Cloud App Security? Which is specific detection engine that's happening running on the back end and being configured? And this will automatically generate for you a kind of remediation status. Which one has been actually remediated? Which one is still running using the AIR capabilities, the automation, investigation, and incident response? And which one is still required an action to be taken by the admin or the analyst in order to approve or deny a response? And then we're starting to look at here, the message is starting from having an alerts, like a set of an encounter alerts for our scenario, reducing such kind of alerts to a set of an incidents, and this high fidelity incidents, and packing with the AIR and automated self-healing capabilities coming with a unified experience. This will automatically reduce a percentage of these incidents to a lower number. Imagine the time and the effort that your SOC analyst team in your organization will spend if you have a multiple different secured solutions. Everyone have its own investigations, even if having the API and integrations, and you need to take more time to take, is it high, it's a false positive, it's a real threat or false negative, or it's actually high fidelity incident that you need to spend the time to take an action. That's how the unified XDR and SIEM platform from Microsoft will help you not only to save time, but to prioritize the action on the high fidelity incidents that you need to spare your time to take an action on top of it. And then when you click on the incidents, you will be able to see it's not only just a detection and correlation, but it's more into actually prevention and protection and taking action here by reducing the set of encounters and malicious activities and telemetry coming from the system. And when I click on the incident itself, I wanted to see the mapping. I will be able to see the mapping across the MITRE attacks, as you can see here on the left side. Show me the categories, show me how many impacted assets, devices, users, mailboxes, etc. Show me the entire evidence and the entire incident detail that's actually being streamed and ingested seamlessly correlated to the Azure Sentinel as a unified platform. And then once that showing you here, you will be able to collect the attack collateral, getting the artifacts, mapping to MITRE, attack framework, scoping for the impact entities, the correlation, the actions that has been done in terms of the AIR capability as a self-healing and collected evidence. This is a fast, saving time, and more efficient investigation and forensics that can be done by the SOC analyst team. And then what's happening there is seeing the set of alerts under the same correlated incident. I have a multiple correlated alerts coming from the same scenarios, that use case that I shared with you. Showing me suspicious PowerShell command that has been done, coming from this malicious weaponized document attached in an email. And then we're starting to open and click, show me the detection source, coming from the endpoint engine, from the Defender for Endpoint, coming from the Defender for Office 365, coming from the Defender for Identity, or coming from the MCAS Cloud App Security, or even if I look at the Azure Sentinel side, I'll be able to see the correlations coming from the Azure Defender Suite alerts and incidents as well. And then going here and clicking on even any kind of an alert that's been correlated, you will have a complete detailed analysis across the entire alert story. So as you can see it here, what's happening, I'm seeing suspicious PowerShell command line, starting by the alert, having the applications and this PowerShell command on the host or endpoint level. So you have a unified alerting investigation panel that having the activities, the main entities that's being associated and linked to this specific alert, which is actually linked to the entire incident, which is a multi-stage incident that's shown to you. And then we're starting to click on any of the entities here. I'll be able to see, I can consult the threat experts, which is the MDR Microsoft Threat Expert service coming from Microsoft for further investigation or analysis or consultation purpose. And then once you started to click it, this will create a ticket for you and assign like an expert in order to investigate and showing you the guidance about this specific alert. And even if you click on any entity, like a user entity, here is a unified user entity profile details dashboard, showing you the analysis coming from the Defender for Identity panel and Cloud App Security. Who is this user? How is this exactly which domain? What more details information about any kind of an alerts, timeline, recommendations on the machine level or even on the user entity level. And you can take an action at any time as a SOC admin to the host level itself, to the endpoint. I would like to have a live response session to have a live investigation. I'd like to initiate an automatic investigation playbook. Or I'd like to see what are the main actions that has been taken. Isolate, quarantine this machine from the network. And remember, all of these capabilities as a response is being integrated into the Azure Sentinel as well, using the set of automations and playbooks. So all of this is actually exposed as an action steps and controls that you can have a full end-to-end view, top-down across the entire organization, what exactly happened, as well as to take an action and to automate a set of playbooks in order to take an action across the entire state. So here is a unified device page showing to you, show me how many users, logins, interactive, active network, etc. Show me the directory, show me the domain and response actions that can be taken here on the same console. Next step, when you go to the Action Center, I'll be able to have a detailed audit log trail. Show me what has been captured, what has been done in terms of response and action by your users in my organizations of which devices. And then here is a unified Action Center. If I go back and click from the machine to a specific entity of a user, I will go to the user entity detail page, and then I will be able to see exactly what's happening. What is the risk that has been defined for this user? Any kind of a triggered alerts. Show me any kind of lateral movement to reconnaissance happening for this specific identity. And I will be able to actually confirm if this user is being compromised or requires a user is sign in again to resign, or I'd like to do forensic or hunting activity on top of it. Here is a timeline activity that I'm showing you under the underlying product of the Microsoft Defender. And remember all of these timelines, activities, and alerts being streamed natively to the Azure Sentinel, as I showed you at the beginning of my experience. And when I do hunting, I'd like to hunt this specific account security ID SIDs for a specific account name in a specific duration of time based on a timestamp. And when it's starting to run the query, here is a cross workload experience using the same Azure Sentinel custom query language. So the detection rules that you were writing here, you will be able to have in Sentinel and vice versa. That's a unified out-of-the-box integrated experience for your organization. And then I'll be able to see on the left side that schema is related to apps, identity, email, devices, alerts, etc. And here is a unified set of an XDR platform that will be bringing to be integrated with your SIEM for Sentinel. And then I'm showing you different examples about different schemes, built-in custom parts or functions. And here's a unified go hunting and contextual hunting as a cross for your endpoints, devices, identity, and data applications. And from an infrastructure point of view, because I might have a set of containers, Kubernetes, servers as well that may be hosted on the cloud or even on-premise with the Azure Arc integration. Seamless experience, the same alerts and security alerts and even recommendations that's being triggered by the Azure Defender is being streamed actually to your Azure Sentinel. So you have an end-to-end visibility across the multi-cloud, the on-prem assets and infrastructure. You can see the security recommendation showing up here. You're having a built-in dedication workbook in your Azure Sentinel. the entire alerts that's been triggered in out-of-the-box data connector for Azure Defender data connector control. So you will be able not only to get a visibility in terms of vulnerabilities and recommendations, but also to get the experience and ingesting the alerts that has been triggered from the Azure Defender, protecting and securing your infrastructure directly to the unified experience. And here's a recommendation actions that can be taken to one of the servers. You will be able to close the gaps to avoid any vulnerability that might come even to the infrastructure layer. But you know what? Let me stop talking right now and let me show to you a live experience about how the solution it works in real life scenario. And let me know please if you're able to see my screen here. So here's what I'm doing is I'm going to the Azure Sentinel as an analyst. Here is the overview showing me alerts. Here is a set of an incidents. If I'll be able to go to the data collectors, what I'll be able to see, I'm going to see there are an out-of-the-box data connectors that's mainly designed natively as a unified XDR and SIEM from Microsoft. So when I started to scroll down a little bit, what I'm going to see, I'll see that I do have a multiple set of data connectors. Each one is designed to one of the Defender product, whatever it's an Azure Defender or the Microsoft Defender. And even I'll be able to go to the level of the underlying product, like Defender for Endpoint, like Defender for Identity, for Defender Office 365, and even for Microsoft Cloud App Security, etc., including the Azure Defender 1. When I hit Azure Defender, I will be able to see it, even from the Defender for IoT in terms of the OT and IoT, or even for the Azure Defender for the entire suite. But what's interesting is I will be able to see as well another data connector as an out of the box, which is called Microsoft 365 Defender. If I started to click on it, what I'm expecting to see, it's a native data connector that's streamed not only set of an alerts coming from the Defender suite, but also giving you the option to define which kind of raw data table that you would like to stream into Sentinel. The value is having a single console that's not only providing incidents and alerts coming from the Defender suite as a unified experience, but also providing you the way to ingest raw data coming from your Defender underlying products. So you'll be able to do more detections, creating your own analytics rules and detection rules on top of it, maybe correlating with a third-party data coming from firewall, appliances, assets, security controls, items, etc. So what's happening here when I go back and I click on the incidents? So what I'm seeing there is an incident which is called the multi-stage incident. I will be able to see this incident is mainly triggered by products called Microsoft 365 Defender or might be an Azure Defender. And if you look at the right side, I'm seeing a link that when I click on it, it will automatically go to the incident detail page into the M365 Defender console for further investigation and deep dive analysis and forensic about what exactly happening behind the scene. And I can assign the specific incident to an analyst. I can set the status. I can see the entire severity that's being correlated across multiple alerts since it's a multi-stage. I'm able to see if there is any kind, how many alerts for two that has been correlated. Show me the entire entities, mapping to MITRE in terms of tactics. If you're integrating this specific setting with any ITSM tool, ticketing tool, you can do it easy with ServiceNow, with Jira, with Remedy, etc. And then what I'm going to do is I'll be able to click on view full details or click on investigation to look exactly on the investigation graph that I showed you in my screenshots. I'll be able to get the full details analysis about the entities details. So here what you're going to see, I'm seeing the alerts that has been triggered from two underlying products under the Defender, from Defender for Identity, Defender for an Endpoint, and I can see Defender for Office 365 based on the alert. I'm seeing here the entire timeline preview screens. Show me exactly what's happening across multiple stages or categories or tactic based on a MITRE. Show me the timeline content, severity, MITRE tactics, and when I started to click at every single set of a timeline, I'll get the entire details. All of these data is being ingested coming from the Defender that's integrated out of the box with the connector. That's the beauty and the power of having a unified experience and full integration on the back end without the need to write. I'm saying that there is a kind of a tools malwares, vscripts has been run on one view. But you know what? I will go back here and I would like to investigate this defender. So let me open it for you in another tab. So when I click on it, what will happen in here? And let me click on incidents and showing you the experience. So when I click on the link, it will pivot directly. If you look at the URL down the screen, it's going to an incident. Here is the incident ID. Here is the SIEM incident, and here is the TID. So you have a unified integrated mapping to the same incident coming from the Defender suite across your Sentinel and vice versa, which means any action that will be taken here by adding a comment, change the status, assign it to a different analyst for further investigation, or actually close a case, it will be automatically synced with your Defender and vice versa. You don't need to do any manual thing. Everything is out of the box integrated as a unified experience. So when I go here and what I'm going to show to you here, I'll be able to see there is an incident which is having the multi-stage incident analysis. And then when I start to expand this incident, I'm going to show all of the correlated alerts that's being triggered, coming from which kind of solutions. So when I click on choose columns and scroll to the right side, I'll be able to see the categories based on a MITRE, investigation state, severity, impacted entities. This is related to mailboxes, related to users, related to devices in organization. What is exactly the entire entities? Show me the entire service and detection source that's actually being correlated. It's coming from Defender for Endpoint as an endpoint, coming from an email or Office 365 as Defender for Office 365, coming from identity and domain control from MDI, Defender for Identity, or coming from the cloud applications using the cloud app security. If you scroll to the right, getting the details about the data, sensitivity, classifications, and information. And then what I'm going to do is I would like to get more details because I wanted to scroll to specific alert or even the entire incident here that's being streamed, integrated, and correlated in Azure Sentinel as a unified one. I'm seeing the impacted instance, the entities. I want to get more details about the incident details. When I click on open incident page, I'm seeing the entire mapping to MITRE based on the categories and tactics, loading all of the other alerts, how many impacted assets, entire investigations happening using the AIR capabilities, the automated investigation engine with the playbooks. Show me the evidence, the logs, and the remediation response actions. I'm seeing it here. What's happening is I have a multiple set of a MITRE attack tactics based on my scenario. Show me top impacted entities. And then when I started to scroll down, show me the evidence scoring and entities. If I click on alerts, I'll be able to see all of the correlated alerts that's being mapped into this multi-stage incident. Show me what has been done. I can tag it for further investigation. Show me severity, status, link it, which categories, impacted entities, and the entire full metadata details. Here's a view about the devices, about the users, about the mailbox that's being impacted, and most importantly for a SOC, to see the entire automatic investigation and the whole evidence log details. Show me from an emails. I do have an email clusters might be impacted. Show me the information about it in unified experience. I'm getting the email, the alert that has been detected by Defender for Office 365. Show me the count, show me the threat, the malware. If I'd like to open the Explorer to see the experience into native one. So when I click on Open Explorer and I would like to open it in a new tab for you, you will be able to jump automatically to the detailed page of this specific entity and show you the entire Explorer analysis. It's an inbound. Here's the remediations, target a specific domain, and show me similar activities that's happening in my organization. I'd like to take an action at any time for any specific, to email, to devices, to an identity, the same console, the same experience. I can trigger, I can do soft delete, hard delete, or even move to further investigation and trigger it. So when I go back to my tab, what's happening is when I go to open any kind of an alert, just showing to you, and I'd like to investigate more into the suspicious activity that's happening on one of the endpoints. That's fine. So if I scroll down and I'm seeing what's going, I'll see there is a suspicious file that was observed here.
And I wanted to get, and this the main detection is coming from the endpoint. And I want to see exactly what's the suspicious file that has been observed. So when I click on it, or you can click on the circle icon on the left side to open a panel in the same page without the need to navigate to other pages, because they have multi panels and windows in the same view to avoid and reduce the navigation steps. So you're going to the alert story. I have all of the entities. I'm seeing what exactly happening here on this specific document that's leading Trojan. I can even expand and collapse. I'm seeing that a suspicious file was observed. And when I click on it, it will open the details. If this file, which kind of commands? Is it a kind of a script or suspicious command that's happening? Show me more details about it. Show me the linked items that's happening in my organization. And I'm seeing there's something launched a link. Here is the entire command. Here is the exit that's starting to drop as a backdoor in my host. And then at any time, I'll be able to take an action. So when I click on the machine details exactly, or even on the user, I'll be able to take any action coming from any machine, from the same console here under the alert story, or even on the right panel. Or I would like to open this device details page. I want to see what exactly happening there. I want to take an action. This specific domain controller or server, I would like to isolate quarantine from the network. I would like to run the AV scan. I would like actually to have a live response session investigation to do more forensics and investigation and triage activity. I would like to trigger automatic investigations or take an action. All of what you are seeing is a native experience coming from the unified XDR, the Microsoft Defender, and the unified SIEM, which is the Azure Sentinel. So imagine the times that you can save as a one single pane of glass dashboard, having a top-down and deep view and analysis, not only from an investigations and detections and forensic and invasive and triage, but also to take a response action using triage settings, using a playbooks and automation rules that can take an action across the entire state and organization. That's what the real value of having a unified XDR and SIEM by using Azure Sentinel and the Microsoft Defender suite. And this will save a lot of time by having multiple different security solutions that's covering multiple different security workloads that you need to build a lot of sense and APIs and integrations and playbooks. And this will not be technically not efficient by having streamed out of the box data, alerts, correlations, evidence enrichment across the entire state with Defender, from your infrastructure with Azure Defender, with your Azure Sentinel. That is the real deal of having unified XDR and SIEM platform. With that, we have just a kind of few minutes remaining, 3 to 4 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm gonna watch this chatting window as well. If there is any questions that been shared, we're more than happy to answer it and clarify it.
Thank you, Hisham, for taking us through this journey with the security series and sharing your experience with our community members. Yes, we have a few more minutes to address some of the questions that the community had. Please feel free to send them through the Q&A tab. I'm just gonna put here on the slide, the survey link. This helps us understand more about the topics that you would love to see in the reactor. I'm gonna share more resources with you in the chat window in the Q&A tab, actually, for you to continue the journey on Microsoft Learn after this session and continue learning. All right, we had one question on is there any collaboration that's gonna be between Azure Sentinel and recent links with Darktrace? I think this is the question, if I get it right.
Let me repeat it here. So I'm just reading the question. Okay, so the question is, there is going to be any further collaboration between Azure Sentinel and recent links with Darktrace? So from an Azure Sentinel point of view, we are providing multiple ways to integrate with any data source. So if Darktrace, they'll be able to provide account for you in feeds or integrations
we can easily integrate this one with Azure Sentinel, because Azure Sentinel is not limited in terms of integration with any source. If Darktrace would like to bring feeds, intelligence, telemetries, and events coming from Darktrace directly to Sentinel, it can be easily done with multiple options. One is using a custom playbook or logic app, one using the APIs that will require the authentications and keys, and we're providing a multiple set of authorizations option from our side. Seconds can be done with an out-of-the-box custom connector that can be designed if you'd like to bring. So it depends on which kind of data. Is it a data coming in a syslog format? So you can have the syslog forwarding directly to Azure Sentinel, and Sentinel have a built-in out-of-the-box connector for syslog or even for Ceph. Or it can be using a set of feeds using via the APIs. So we can use the REST APIs with multiple set of authorization using a token, certificate, key, credentials, access, raw credentials. Multiple options can be done with a logic app and connector in order to bring the feeds and links from Darktrace to Azure Sentinel. Hopefully it's clear.
All right, thank you everyone for joining us today. I shared with you a few links and resources for continuing this journey after the session, learned resources, survey, and email sign up. So we understand that you are getting a lot of notifications from Meetup. So we launched recently a monthly Reactor community update newsletter where you get all the Reactor events in your time zone and the links to register in one email. So you can reach and find these resources on the Q&A tab and register to be part of the newsletter. Thank you again, Hisham, for joining us today and taking us through this journey through this 4-part series. All the sessions are recorded, and the last 3 parts, I shared them already with the community members. So in case you want to review anything, all the members are invited to visit the YouTube channel and find these sessions there. Today's session will be available very soon also on YouTube channel. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. I hope you stay safe, and we see you on the next one. Take care.